We talked about the strongest positions on offense yesterday, and today we're going to be doing the same thing for the defensive side of the football. Let's get into it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to the everydayers who are here every day, wherever you're going to get podcasts. Hit like and subscribe, turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Let's talk defense. Yesterday was the offensive side of the football. If you did not see that episode, check it out wherever you're getting your podcasts and see how I ranked the positions: quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, running back, and offensive line. See how I ranked them for yesterday's episode. Today, we're doing the same thing. I have broken it up once again into 5 different position groups. We will be looking at the edge rushers, the defensive linemen, the linebackers, the corners, and the safeties. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's not waste any more time. Starting with the number 5 position. This should not come as a surprise to anyone. It's the interior defensive line. Arizona State just lost not 1, not 2, but 3 defensive linemen to the transfer portal. Those guys being Robbie Harrison, who was a huge standout during spring practice, Jaleel Rivera-Harvey, who was one of the veteran players that was projected to get some playing time, and Brandon McElroy, who more than likely was going to be a bench player, but nonetheless, it's another guy we lost. So right now, we are looking at nothing on the defensive line. I'm not just talking about there's not a lot of talent or anything. I mean, there are no interior defensive linemen on this team. There is CJ Fight, who first of all is a stud, and he has dominated spring ball, and I anticipate that he's going to continue to do the same thing. He is absolutely in line for a starting position, and for no other reason than because there's no competition, but he's earned it regardless. Outside of CJ Fight, there are no defensive linemen here. There's no guys that are 300 pounds. There's no guys that are 290. There's no guys that are 280. One of the biggest defensive linemen that we have is redshirt freshman Tristan Monday at 6'4", 276. He is one of the guys that we're probably going to have to force him to play defensive tackle right now. Looking at this team, man, there's a lot of question marks right now at the defensive line or interior defensive line position. I feel like Arizona State is really putting all their eggs in one basket here and betting on Deshaun Mallory to end up joining the team via the transfer portal. Mallory, of course, the Michigan State defensive tackle who was going through this will he, won't he process with the team for spring practice, wasn't able to get enrolled, therefore was not a Sun Devil. A lot of us started to move on, and now it feels like things are picking back up again, and it feels like he's going to end up being a Sun Devil after all, but we're still waiting for the official update for him to be a Sun Devil. Until then, it looks like there is one definitive defensive tackle on this team, and one guy that you're maybe hoping can get to there. Now, there's other options for bigger guys, like Michael Matus plays in the 270s or 260s, somewhere in that range. What's his name? Anthony Cooper also plays a little heavier at 270. These are guys that you could potentially kick inside, but my goodness, is this bad for the run defense when you don't have guys that can clog the lanes? You're really going to miss Nesta Jade Silvera this upcoming year. This is a defensive line that just does not have depth. I am really excited for CJ Fight, but there's literally nothing else there. It's definitively the weakest position on the roster. If there was depth, this might not be last place, but right now it is because there's just no depth. The next position I have here is quite the opposite of having no depth. It's the linebacker position. That's my number 4 deepest slash most talented slash highest upside, whatever you want to call it, position group on the defensive side of the ball. Now, hear me out. There are a lot of names at linebacker. I'm not even going to be able to get to all of them. The problem is the vast majority of these guys have next to zero starting experience, let alone just getting on the field, period. This group will be led by Travion Brown, the transfer from Wazoo. I am very excited for him. He was a good player up at Washington State. He's coming down to Arizona State to help the translation from whatever they were doing last year on the defensive side of the football with, I can't even think of his name, Donnie Henderson. And now they have Brian Ward, who, funny enough, was the defensive coordinator at Washington State. He knows Travion Brown really well. Travion Brown knows his defense really well. It's a shoe-in. It's an easy fit. After him, there is a lot of competition. And that's a good thing. I'm here for it. I have no problem with whatever combination they want to throw out there. But with that being said, there's very little proven guys here. To me, I think that the next 2 players, because Arizona State typically runs a 4-3 defense, although they will have that star position. They'll have nickel corners. There's going to be all sorts of packages. You're very rarely going to see an actual true 4-3 defense with this team. But in the starting lineup and whatnot, I believe the next 2 guys are Will Schaefer and James Ajonkum. Those are my projected starters for the team. But we have to keep an eye out. Like I said, I'm not going to name everyone here, but the notable names, Caleb McCullough will also be a returning player that we have to watch out for. Tate Romney, a transfer from, oh goodness, I can't even remember where he transferred from, but Tate Romney will be another guy to watch. Kavion Thunderbird, an incoming freshman who was a 3-star guy. Crew Jackson, a former Valley kid coming from Kansas State who's got experience at both safety and linebacker. You've got a logjam of guys here, which is a great problem to have. The only downside here is there's just so little to go off of. And because of that, it's my number 4 position. I will tell you, and I emphasize this, I'm interested to see how these guys shake out. I would love to give them the opportunity to prove that they can be a deep position group and they can be one of the stronger units on this team. Like, I'm not dissing these guys whatsoever. It's just you don't have a ton of proven like game time experience here. And because of that, it's my number 4 unit. What I do have to talk to you guys about now is FanDuel. Grand slams, no hitters, double plays, they're back, and there's no better place to get in on the Major League Baseball action than FanDuel, America's number 1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your bet doesn't win. So don't miss out on your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Also want to mention to you guys that the ultimate draft coverage is here. It's Locked On's NFL Mock Draft Special. It's bigger than ever. Follow along all 32 teams' first pick in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience. Only Locked On can deliver. All episodes are available on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcasts. Let's get back into our conversation now, looking at the strongest position groups for Arizona State. Number 3 spot, we're going with safety. Truly, the defensive backfield in general is very deep, but we'll get to the cornerbacks eventually. For safety, I think it's pretty top heavy, but the top heaviness has me really interested. You've got Chris Edmonds returning, who by himself is an absolute stud, and I am very intrigued to see how he's going to respond in his last season playing college football. He's got ball hawking skills. He recorded 3 interceptions last year, which led the team. He would have had a pick six if not for an offsides penalty, I believe, from Anthony Cooper. But at this point, it's been so long that I can't even remember who the guy was that pulled it off. But you've also got some really intriguing talents here. You've got two transfers to keep an eye out on with Shamari Simmons from Austin Peay and Xavier Alford from USC. Both of the guys have really shined during spring practices. Xavier Alford, especially, looks like a ball hawking talent that could be that center fielder for the team that allows Chris Edmonds to be a little more versatile, get him near the line of scrimmage. But Chris Edmonds has ball hawking skills on his own. Alford also has ball hawking skills. You could have two safeties that are able to take the ball away at will, whether it's interceptions or fumbles or whatever have you. They can break up passes. They're good in coverage, all that good stuff. Shamari Simmons, also a talented defender with plus ball skills. I like Shamari Simmons to play all over the place. Maybe he can be that Corey Bethley kind of player for you, where he can be the safety, he can be the nickel, he can be the star. I think that Arizona State needs to find a way to get all three of these guys on the field, if I'm being honest. I want to see a lot of packages where you've got three ball hawking players on the field. The instincts are there. The ability for them to create plays is there. I really like this group. You have freshman Montana Warren coming in. And to be honest, I feel like we should probably temper our expectations for him simply because of the depth that the safety position has right now. It would not be fair to expect Montana Warren to be on the field for even 50% of the snaps. This should be a guy that could potentially redshirt and learn behind these guys because Edmund Simmons and Alford are gone after this year, unless they have some eligibility that I don't know about. We're coming to the end of that COVID stuff. So hopefully we can wrap this up. But more than likely, these three guys will be out. Warren will be able to come in and take over. But I have the safety spot as my number 2 positional group because, come on. This is a great looking group. Number 2, the aforementioned cornerbacks. It is led by Roe Torrance, a guy that I expect is going to be one of the top cover men in the Pac-12. A guy I anticipate is going to take a massive step forward from quality to good to great in 2023. He's got the size. He's got the mirror match ability. While he isn't the interception guy yet, who knows? Maybe he is able to get to that point. But he does make plays on the football. He breaks up passes. Like I said, he can mirror guys. He has no problem being sticky in coverage. He's physical. He's big. He's tall. He's strong. He's got everything you look for in the modern corner. Too soon to tell, but he feels like the not off-field troublesome version of, I can't even think of his name, Brandon Browner is kind of the guy I feel like he can be without the off-field stuff. Beyond Torrance, there is insane depth here. You've got Ed Woods, who came on strong in the second half of the year and is looking like the number 2 corner opposite Torrance. You've got Jordan Clark, who you could include him in the safety group if you wanted to, because he started a handful of games as the free safety last year. The versatility of Clark helps the safety group also. It's just the 3 guys that I mentioned plus Montana Warren, you don't really have a need for Clark back there short of injuries, and, knock on wood, that's not the situation. But those 3 alone make this a strong group, but it's the talent behind them, the depth that really takes this unit over the top. You've got Isaiah Johnson going into his redshirt sophomore year. If he is able to find a way to consistently make plays and practice, stand out, there's very little that's stopping him from being one of the top corners on this team. The potential is absolutely there. This is a kid that we should be excited about. It's just a matter of him being able to take that next step and get starting status and get big-time playmaking status. In the meantime, he's still grinding along and slowly perfecting his game. There's depth here like Alfonso Taylor, RJ Reagan, Mason Williams. There's so much to work off of here. And that's not including everyone. There is a ton of corners here and some safeties as well. Like you could, if you combined this group, they might be the number one position group. But to separate corner and safety, I have the cornerback group as the number two. And it's not even like top heavy. Like, yes, your three projected starters between Torrance, Woods, and Clark are all guys who potentially, if you didn't hear me, get to the next level. Torrance especially has major upside. Clark's got the NFL bloodlines. He's also a terrific nickel corner. Ed Woods, if he can play the same way he played in the second half of the year, he's going to get people to pay attention to him. Those three guys alone make it a strong group, like I already said. But the guys behind them also have the potential to see the field consistently and be able to make a difference. And that's the reason why I believe these guys are the number two deepest position on the Arizona State Sun Devils right now. Love, love, love this group. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen every day. Everydayers, make sure that you tune into tomorrow's show as I will be taking a look at the NFL draft prospects for the Sun Devils, including Nesta Jade Silvera and X Valade, talking about what they're good at, what they're bad at, and their potential NFL ceilings. Make sure that you tune in wherever you're getting your podcasts. The number one position group for Arizona State shouldn't be a surprise. It's the edge rushers. You want to talk about depth. This is the deepest group Arizona State has. I have 7 guys listed that I want to talk about specifically, and there's still guys behind them I didn't list. And these 7 guys all have an opportunity to be starters for this team. You can make an argument for legitimately every single one of these guys to get onto the field. And the fact that you will be able to rotate them in, this is a pass rush that's going to stay fresh on first, second, third, fourth down, on conversions, on long drives. You will be able to rotate these guys, and the pass rush is not going to be a problem. Brian Ward has way too much talent to work with here, and Arizona State is going to be able to never be tired off the edge. You've got BJ Green, who is transitioning from defensive tackle to edge rusher. You really wish he could still be a defensive tackle, but oh my goodness, the upside that he has had since he moved to edge rusher is ridiculous. He was arguably the best player on the field during spring practice. He had 2-3 sacks every practice, every scrimmage. He dominated the spring game. BJ Green is the truth. Now that he's moved outside, he looks comfortable and confident. I am hoping this is like big expectations here, and not even expectations, more of like not even projecting, like what I would love to see him become. Could he be Elvis Dumerville? Like that undersized edge rusher who's just so quick and productive that it's like, well, maybe we overthought him. That's what you're hoping for. But in the meantime, you've got Clayton Smith, the transfer, the former 4/5-star prospect, the dude who is built like he's ready for the next level. He looks like that Greek sculpture, and man, he plays like an NFL player. He's so quick off the snap. He combines that speed with conversion power. He looks like if they are able to develop him properly, he could find himself in the first round. This is definitely a guy that NFL teams are already looking at. I can promise you that. And it feels like he should be a starter. But if he's not, I got great news for you because there's a lot of veteran depth here. You've got Michael Matus, who's coming back from an ACL tear. If he's 100%, you're going to have a really difficult time not getting that veteran presence on the field. You have Anthony Cooper, who's been one of the more productive edge rushers for the team in the last handful of years. Garrett Stansbury is also back. He's another guy who has looked very good in practice. He's been with the team for a handful of years. I'm looking forward to him. There's a freshman coming in, Ashley Williams. I pray that he goes by Ash Williams so that I can do references to Evil Dead and like Ashley Williams can get a sack and I'll just be like, groovy. If you understand, leave a comment, let me know. But regardless, Ashley Williams has looked really good. There's Prince Dorba as well, who, shocker, has looked very good in practice. And I believe that Dorba could potentially shock people. And when I say shock people, I mean like end up becoming a really important role in this rotation for the team. Heck, based off of what he showed me, this guy could be starting games every once in a while. Like, those are just 7 guys here. There is so many guys that Arizona State has at the edge rushing position that it is just ignorance and it's irresponsible to not look at this group and call them anything but the number one position on the defensive side of the football. Last year, Arizona State was absolutely pitiful in the pass rush department. 4 guys tied for the lead in sacks with 2.5. I promise you, those guys are going to be more productive this year. BJ Green and Anthony Cooper were 2 of the guys with 2.5 sacks last year. If they can't double that at a minimum, I'd be shocked. Even in part-time roles, even if BJ Green is a rotational guy, even if Anthony Cooper isn't able to like fully harness this defense, I still don't see any reason why these guys can't be better than they were last year. I don't see a reason why Clayton Smith can't get onto the field, or Ashley Williams can't get onto the field, or Prince Dorba can't get onto the field. Michael Matus, take your time with him, make sure that that knee is right, but when he's back on the field, it's going to be difficult to keep him off of the field. Garen Stansbury is the final guy I mentioned of the 7. Like I said, there's more guys here to be watching and paying attention for. There's a lot of talent here on the defensive side of the football to keep an eye out on. So definitely number one position. It's not close either. Before I wrap up this show, it just occurred to me that for the cornerback and the safety positions, I forgot to mention the 2 most recent transfers. I do want to include for the corners, Demetrius D. Ford, transferred from Austin Peay. He's got experience next to Shamari Simmons. He played very well. And then for the safety spot, Roman Rashada, the brother of Jaden, is also coming to the team. He's been a player for Ole Miss. There's talent here. Bottom line, my apologies for not mentioning them at the time, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring them up now. That only makes those position groups deeper. Now you've got 4 safeties to look at as potential starters, and you develop Montana Warren. You look at the corners, like Jordan Clark could move to safety, and then D Ford can come out and be the nickel. Like, there's so many guys in the secondary that's going to allow you to have such a deep unit. But even with those guys included, like I said, it'd be irresponsible to not have the edge rushers as the number 1 spot. But yes, those 2 transfers absolutely deserve to be included in these rankings. My apologies for not mentioning them sooner. That being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Don't forget, tomorrow's edition, we're looking at the players that are going to be entering the 2023 NFL Draft, including Nessa Jade Silvera and X Valade. Tune in as I break those players down, their upside, their positives, their negatives, maybe pro comparisons. I make no promises on that because I am typically very, very bad with pro comparisons, but I'll do my absolute best. Thank you guys as always for tuning in wherever you're getting your podcast. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe and turn on those notifications. Also, if you are on Twitter, give me a follow. You can find me at Richie Brads36. You can find the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. That's all that I have for you guys here today. I'll see you next time. Until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.